Have you ever felt that chill? The one that cuts to the bone, when yesterday's passionate gaze becomes today's polite indifference. When the passion that moved mountains turns into a quiet, almost awkward silence. He pursued you. He called. He texted. He sought you out. You were the center of his universe, a mystery he longed to solve. And then you gave in. You opened your heart, your time, your soul to him. And in that very moment, when you expected the beginning of a beautiful story, you only saw the end credits. The interest faded. The hunt was over. Why does this happen? Why does the flame that burned so brightly turn to ash as soon as the prey is in hand? The cliché answers that your friends in popular magazines offer, he's just like that. You became uninteresting to him. Find someone else, are not just useless, they're insulting. They suggest the problem is with you or with him, but they don't see the essence of it. They don't see the deep, ancient psychological law that governs this dynamic. Carl Jung, the great explorer of the human soul, never wrote articles for glossy magazines about relationships. But he spoke of things far more profound, of archetypes, of the shadow, of the anima and animus, those unconscious forces that guide us from the depths of our psyche. And it is in his work that the key to understanding the psychology of the hunter is hidden. This archetype, living in the owl, collective unconscious, has nothing to do with cruelty. It is connected to instinct, to overcoming, to comprehending a mystery. The hunter loses interest, not when he gets his prey, but when the prey ceases to be a mystery. When she becomes predictable, understandable, a fully mapped out territory. The truth they are afraid to say out loud is that your availability, your complete emotional openness, and your readiness to dissolve into another person are not virtues in the eyes of this archetype. It is a signal that the game is over. But what if I told you that this game could not only be continued, but turned into an endless dance of mutual attraction? What if you could become not a fleeting prey, but an eternal, alluring mystery that he wants to understand again and again? This is not about manipulation. This is about a deep inner transformation, about awakening those parts of your personality that you may have been taught to see as wrong or selfish. Jung would say that the path to this lies through achieving wholeness, through accepting your shadow. Today, we will not talk about how to make him like you. We will break down 7 fundamental principles of the hunter's psychology that will transform you from a trophy gathering dust on a shelf into a priceless treasure that he will be afraid to lose for the rest of his life. Are you ready to stop being a conquered territory and become an entire universe that can be explored endlessly? Then let's begin. Principle 1, the principle of the unfinished story. Remember, the feeling when you're reading a captivating book and you suddenly realize the last pages have been torn out, or when you're watching a TV series that ends on a major cliffhanger. What happens in your mind? The story doesn't let you go. You replay possible scenarios in your head. You live in that world. You are obsessed with the desire to know what happens next. This is not just curiosity. It is a fundamental law of the human psyche, known as the Zeigarnik effect. We remember unfinished actions and stories much better than those that have reached their logical conclusion. Now, apply this to relationships. When a woman on the very first date lays out her entire life, her fears, her past relationships, her dreams, and her plans for the future, what is she doing? She is handing the man a completely finished book. He has flipped through it, seeing the beginning, the middle, and the predictable end. The story is complete. The interest is satisfied. The hunter instinctively understands. There is nothing more to explore here. A corvette, woman who intuitively understands the principle of the unfinished story, acts differently. She doesn't lie or hide things. She is a master of the unsaid. She is an author who releases her story one chapter at a time, and each chapter ends in such a way that you wait for the next with bated breath. To the question, "Tell me about yourself," she doesn't give an autobiography. She smiles and says, "Oh, that's a long story. I'm afraid one evening won't be enough." She doesn't list all her hobbies. She might mention that she sometimes writes poetry at night, but she will never show it to him first. She creates what Jung would call a space for projections. When there is something left unsaid, a man begins to fill in the blanks with his imagination. He begins to speculate, to fantasize, to invest his own psychic energy into her image. He becomes not just a reader, but a co-author of this mystery. This is not a game of cat and mouse. This is the creation of depth. The hunter archetype in a man reacts not to beauty or availability, but to complexity and mystery. A simple, understandable prey is merely the sating of a hunger. A mysterious, multi-layered personality is a challenge to his intellect, his intuition, his very soul. He starts thinking about you when you're not around. He tries to put together a puzzle whose missing pieces are held by you. Your silence becomes as intriguing as your words. Your absence becomes as significant as your presence. Jung would say that by revealing all your cards at once, you rob the relationship of its unconscious dimension. You leave it on the level of flat, rational consciousness. But true attraction lies in the depths, in the shadow, in the world of archetypes and symbols. The unfinished story is a portal to this world. Every time you leave a little earlier than he expected, and a phone call on an intriguing note, or answer a deep question with a mysterious smile, you are not pushing him away. You are adding fuel to the fire of his unconscious interest. You become not just a woman to him, but a quest. And a man, by his nature, cannot refuse a quest that promises a great reward. Your task is not to be figured out, but to remain someone he wants to figure out forever. Stop being a book that has been read. Become a work of art that he wants to return to again and again, finding new meanings and details each time. Therein lies not your weakness, but your greatest strength. Principle 2. The principle of the valued prize. Imagine two hunters. One hunts for rabbits in a field. It's easy, fast, and the prey is predictable. The other goes on a multi-day expedition into the mountains to track a rare, elusive snow leopard. Which catch will be valued more? The answer is obvious. The value of a trophy is determined not only by its beauty, but also by the difficulty of obtaining it. The more effort, time, and skill invested in the hunt, the more significant the result becomes. Many women make the fatal mistake of believing that their main task is to make the hunt for themselves as easy and convenient as possible. They cancel their plans for him, drop their hobbies to spend more time with him, and place his life at the center of their universe. They are subconsciously screaming, "Look, I'm right here. I'm easy to catch. You don't have to try." And the hunter, obeying his ancient instinct, catches this easy prey, quickly loses interest in it, and sets off in search of a new, more difficult challenge. A woman who lives by the principle of the valued prize understands. Her value is not determined by his attention. Her value exists autonomously. Her life is not a waiting room, but a thriving, self-sufficient kingdom. In this kingdom, there are its own laws, its own interests, its own projects, its own friends, and its own sacred rituals. A man is not the king of this world. He is a welcome guest who may be honored with an invitation, but he will never become the center of this universe, because the center is she herself. Jung would call this the process of individuation, becoming a whole, self-sufficient personality. Such a woman doesn't just have hobbies. She is passionate about her work. She doesn't just meet up with friends. She values and nurtures her social connections. Her schedule is not an empty space to be filled by him. Her schedule is a reflection of her rich, full life. And if he wants to become a part of this life, he must make an effort. He must adjust, negotiate, and earn her time. This is not selfishness. This is self-respect. When he calls and suggests, meeting in an hour, she doesn't drop everything and run to him. She might calmly say, I'd love to, but tonight is a night for myself. I'm reading. How about we try for tomorrow? This is not a rejection. This is a declaration. My time is valuable. My life has meaning. And this drives the hunter archetype crazy. He is confronted not with neediness, but with fullness. He understands that this woman is not looking to him for salvation from boredom or loneliness. She is already saved. She is already happy. And to add something to her happiness, he needs to offer more than just his presence. He needs to offer his best self. A man instinctively respects that which has structure and boundaries. Your full life is your invisible fortress. He sees that you have your own passions, and it ignites him. He sees that you are not waiting by the phone for his call, and it makes him call more often. He sees that you can be happy without him, and it creates in him a desperate desire to be a part of that happiness. You stop being just a woman. You become the prize, and a hunter is ready to fight for a real prize. He is ready to change, to grow, to become better, because he understands that winning your attention is not just a victory. It is proof of his own worth. Don't make his life yours. Let him dream of becoming a part of yours. Principle 3. The principle of emotional unpredictability. One of the biggest illusions that good girls believe is that a man is looking for stability and predictability. Yes, he looks for this in daily life, in partnership, in the long term. But during the hunting stage, the conquest stage, his unconscious craves something else. It craves an emotional roller coaster. It craves the mystery that is carried within feminine nature. A woman who is always even-keeled, always kind, always understanding, always agreeable, is psychologically dead to the hunter. She is like a calm, quiet lake with no current, no depth, no life. She is easy to study, her reactions easy to calculate. She is a safe harbor, but the hunter is not a merchant ship. He is an explorer, hungry for storms and uncharted waters. Jung spoke of the importance of integrating the shadow, that part of our personality that we suppress. For many women, the shadow is their ability to be inconvenient, moody, cold, angry, distant. They are afraid of these emotions, considering them destructive. But in reality, it is precisely this shadow, when it is integrated and conscious, rather than erupting in hysterics, that creates the very emotional unpredictability that hypnotizes a man. A woman who lives by this principle isn't playing a game. She simply allows herself to be alive. Today, she can be warm, gentle, and laughing. But tomorrow, if something has upset her, or she is simply tired, she can be silent, thoughtful, and distant. She doesn't rush to explain the reason for her change in mood. She simply lives through it. She gives herself the right to the full spectrum of human emotions. For a man, this becomes a real challenge. He can no longer act according to a script. His usual methods of seduction and courtship stop working because the object of his interest is constantly changing. A compliment that brought delight yesterday might be met today with only a light, mysterious smile. He no longer controls the situation. He is forced to observe, to analyze, to adapt. He is forced to think about her. What is she feeling? Why is she acting this way? What did I do wrong? His brain, his unconscious, becomes completely absorbed. In this task, this doesn't mean you should create drama out of thin air. No, it's about authenticity, about giving yourself permission to be imperfect. When you stop constantly adjusting to his mood and expectations, you reclaim your inner power. You become not a mirror reflecting his desires, but a living, breathing force of nature. Sometimes a gentle sea, sometimes a mountain river. And the hunter, mesmerized by this changeability, cannot take his eyes off you. He understands that this force of nature can never be fully conquered or understood. It can only be studied, respected, and loved. Every time you allow yourself to be in a bad mood and don't apologize for it, you show him that you are not a function for his pleasure, but a living person. Every time you respond to his passionate message, not with emojis, but with a calm, restrained phrase, you create intrigue. You make him doubt, and doubt is the fuel for interest. Stop being predictable. Stop being convenient. Allow your shadow to come into the light sometimes. It is in this play of light and shadow that the magnetic attraction is born, an attraction that doesn't weaken over time, but only grows stronger. He will never be able to say, "I know her completely," and that is why he will never stop pursuing you. Principle 4. The principle of respected territory. In the natural world, a predator always approaches the territory of another strong animal with caution and respect. It doesn't rush in thoughtlessly. It studies the boundaries, looks for weak spots, and shows deference to the other's strength. This wisdom of nature has a direct parallel in the psychology of human relationships. Your life, your values, your personal space, this is your sacred territory. And how you defend it directly influences whether a man will respect you and, consequently, continue to pursue you. A woman who has not established her boundaries is like a country without an army or borders. Anyone can enter, take what they want, and leave without meeting any resistance. She lets him call in the middle of the night, break promises he's made, criticize her friends or her appearance. She endures, forgives, and tries to understand. She thinks this is a sign of love and flexibility. But to the hunter archetype, it is a signal of weakness. It is a signal that the territory has no owner, and therefore it can be seized and not valued. A woman who masterfully wields the principle of respected territory acts completely differently. Her boundaries are invisible, but they are stronger than steel. They are expressed not in yelling and ultimatums, but in calm, confident actions. If he is late for a date without letting her know, she doesn't make a scene. She simply leaves after 15 minutes, and when he calls in bewilderment, she answers, "I value my time. I hope everything is okay with you. We'll talk later." If he allows himself to use a disrespectful tone, she doesn't get into an argument. She ends the conversation with the words, "I feel like this conversation has become unconstructive." I'm not prepared to continue in this tone. If he tries to pressure her into something she doesn't want, she doesn't look for excuses. She looks him in the eye and says firmly, "No. Each of these actions is not an act of aggression. It is an act of self-respect. It is a declaration. This is my territory. My rules apply here, and the main rule is respect." Jung would say this is a manifestation of a healthy, integrated shadow. The ability to say no, the ability to protect one's psychological space is a sign of a mature personality. A man who encounters such boundaries may at first experience shock or even irritation. His usual patterns of behavior don't work. He can't push, manipulate, or devalue her. He is faced with strength, and his unconscious, his hunter archetype, cannot help but respect this strength. He understands that he is not dealing with a spineless victim, but an equal player, a queen guarding her kingdom. And then the dynamic changes. He starts not just wanting her, but respecting her. He starts to think before he says or does something. He understands that her affection, her time, her trust are not a given, but a privilege that must be earned. He begins to hunt not for her body, but for her respect. And that is a hunt on a completely different level. It requires not audacity, but wisdom. Not force, but tact. Not speed, but patience. Stop being an open field. Become a sovereign state. with your own laws and borders. Don't be afraid of disappointing him or seeming difficult. A strong man is not afraid of difficulties. He seeks them out. It is your boundaries that transform you from easy prey into an impregnable fortress. And storming such a fortress is the sweetest dream for any true hunter. He will return to your walls again and again, not because you push him away, but because you force him to respect your strength. Principle 5. The principle of the mirror. Not the echo dot in the Greek myth. The beautiful Narcissus fell in love with his own reflection. But there was another character, the nymph Echo, who was cursed to only repeat the last words of others. She was hopelessly in love with Narcissus, but he didn't notice her. Why? Because she had no voice of her own. She was just a pale repetition, devoid of her own essence. Many women, in their desire to please a man, unconsciously choose the role of Echo. He says he loves Italian food, and she immediately declares that she adores pasta. He says he's going to a rock concert, and she instantly becomes an avid fan of that band. She agrees with his opinions, laughs at his jokes, and adjusts her views to fit his worldview. She becomes his echo, and just as in the myth, he quickly loses interest in her. Why? Because no one can truly love an echo. It's empty. It offers nothing new. It only reflects what is already there. A woman who follows the principle of the mirror acts differently. She is not an echo that mindlessly repeats. She is a magical mirror. A mirror doesn't just reflect. It shows things from a new angle. It can reveal details that were previously unnoticed. It can show the truth, even if it's uncomfortable. A mirror has its own depth, its own frame, its own unique surface. To be a mirror means to have your own voice, your own opinion, your own universe of values. When he expresses his opinion, you don't rush to agree. You listen, and then you say, "That's an interesting point of view. I actually think differently." You don't argue for the sake of arguing. You share your world. You show him that he is, not with an empty space, but with another person who is no less complex and interesting. Jung said that true relationships are only possible between two whole individualities. When you constantly agree, you erase your individuality. You betray yourself. But when you dare to have your own opinion, you assert your right to exist. You become not just pleasant company for him, but an intellectual and spiritual challenge. He begins to see the world through your eyes as well. His own worldview is enriched. He begins to grow alongside you. The hunter archetype is not looking for confirmation of his own rightness. He is looking to expand his horizons. When you become a mirror for him, he sees in you not only a beautiful woman, but also a wise conversationalist, an interesting opponent, a source of new ideas. He begins to value not only your body, but also your mind. He begins to hunt for your thoughts, for your opinion. It becomes vitally important for him to know. And what does she think about this? Stop being an echo. That path leads nowhere. Find your voice. Don't be afraid to disagree. Your different opinion is not a threat to the relationship. It's a gift. It is proof that you are not his copy, but a unique, precious creation. He might fall in love with his reflection in the water surface, but he will only truly respect and pursue the magical mirror that shows him not only himself, but a whole new world hidden in its depths. Principle 6. The principle of rhythmic absence. The entire universe lives in rhythm. Day follows night, high tide follows low tide, inhalation follows exhalation. This law of rhythm is the key to maintaining life and energy. That which is static, that which does not change, dies. This same principle applies fully to the energy of attraction in relationships. Many women, afraid of losing a man, strive for maximum, continuous presence. They want to be in contact 24/7. They fill up all of his free space. They think that if they disappear from his sight for even a day, he will immediately forget them. This is a catastrophic mistake. Constant presence, like constant light, is exhausting. It leaves no room for the most important component of attraction, longing for desire, for the work of the imagination. A woman who intuitively feels the power of this principle is not afraid to be absent. Moreover, she makes her absence part of the rhythm of the relationship. She doesn't disappear as a punishment or a manipulation. She disappears to return to herself, to be filled with her own energy. She might go away for the weekend with friends and turn off her phone. She might dive headfirst into her creative project for a few days, responding to messages with one-word answers. She might simply spend an evening alone, in silence, without feeling the need to report on her whereabouts. What happens to the man at this moment? At first, he might feel confused, then a slight anxiety, and then his unconscious begins to work with double the force. He starts to remember her, her laugh, her scent, her voice, her image, which fades a little and becomes familiar with constant presence, gains incredible brightness and value in her absence. He begins to miss her, and to miss someone is to desire them. Jung spoke of the enigma, the unconscious female image in a man's soul. When a woman is physically present, she interacts with his consciousness. But when she is absent, her image sinks deeper and begins to interact with his enigma. He begins to idealize her, to endow her with even more magical qualities. Her absence becomes as powerful a tool of influence as her presence. This rhythm of presence and absence prevents interest from fading. Every time you return after a short absence, he looks at you with new eyes. It's as if he is rediscovering you. To him, you are always a little new, always a little different. The hunt resumes, because the prey once again seems elusive and free. Stop being afraid of pauses. A pause in music is just as important as a note. Your rhythmic absence is the very pause that makes the melody of a relationship eternal and exciting. Don't be constant background noise in his life. Be beautiful, rare music that he eagerly waits to hear again. Leave so that he dreams of your return. Disappear so that he understands how empty his world is without you. This is not a game. This is the wisdom of life itself, which knows that after the night, the most desired dawn always comes. Principle 7. The principle of the integrated shadow. We have come to the deepest, most powerful, and for many, the most frightening principle. The one that is the quintessence of Jungian wisdom and the key to eternal attractiveness. This is the principle of the integrated shadow. Jung defined the shadow as everything that we deny, suppress, and do not want to acknowledge in ourselves. For a good, convenient woman who strives for love and approval, the shadow is her ability to be bad. It is her healthy selfishness, her ability to put her own interests first, her right to anger, her ability to leave without explanation, her coldness, her indifference to the opinions of others. She is afraid of these qualities. She considers them ugly, unfeminine, repulsive, and she makes the greatest mistake by banishing this part of herself to the darkest cellars of her soul. Why is this a mistake? Because by banishing the shadow, she becomes half a person, predictable, one-dimensional. She becomes a character made up only of light. And light without shadow is flat and uninteresting. It doesn't create volume. It doesn't create mystery. The hunter archetype may be attracted to this light for a short time, but very soon he will get bored, because his instinct seeks not simplicity, but wholeness. He seeks a woman who has everything, both light and darkness, both an angel and a demon, both a gentle kitten and a wild panther. A woman who has integrated her shadow does not become evil or bitchy. No, she becomes whole. She accepts within herself the right to be anything. She knows that she can be tender and loving, but if she is betrayed, She can become as cold as ice and leave forever. She knows that she can be generous and caring, but if she is used, she can say no without a shadow of a doubt and protect her resources. She is not afraid of her anger. She uses it as fuel to defend her boundaries. She is not afraid of her selfishness. She uses it to follow her dreams. It is this inner duality, this unpredictability that comes from wholeness, that makes her absolutely magnetic. A man can never be completely sure of her. He can never relax and decide that she's mine forever, because he feels that within this woman lives a wild, free part that belongs to no one but herself. He feels that her love is not a given, but a daily choice, and that at any moment, if he ceases to be worthy, that choice can change. This is the eternal hunt. He is not hunting for her body or even for her soul. He is hunting for her choice. Every day, he tries to prove to her and to himself that he is worthy of being with such a complex, multifaceted, and whole person. Her integrated shadow is the guarantee that she will never become his property. She will always be a little bit foreign, a little bit wild, a little bit dangerous, and therefore infinitely desired. Stop being afraid of your dark side. Befriend it. Acknowledge your right to anger, to selfishness, to indifference. Allow yourself to be bad, not to hurt others, but to protect yourself and your wholeness. It is your shadow, your hidden strength, your right to leave. That is the very hook he will never be able to break free from. Because a hunter can catch his prey, but he can never catch a shadow. It will always be slipping away, luring him, and making him come back again and again. We have looked at 7 principles, 7 keys to understanding the psychology of the hunter. But if you were paying attention, you noticed the main overarching idea. None of these principles were aimed at changing him. They are all about how to change yourself, about how to return to your true, whole nature. The paradox that Jung revealed to us is that a man loses interest not because you became unnecessary to him. He loses interest because you became unnecessary to yourself. You dissolved into him. You gave up your life, your boundaries, your opinions, your shadow. You handed him the keys to your kingdom, and finding the throne empty, he left. The path to being pursued again and again is not the path of manipulation. It is the path of individuation. It is the path of reclaiming your value, your mystery, your unpredictability, your power. It is the decision to stop being an echo and become a voice, to stop being an open territory and become a sovereign state, to stop being only light and to embrace your shadow. When you become a whole, self-sufficient universe, the hunter-prey dynamic disappears. It transforms into something far more beautiful and stable, a dance of 2 stars, drawn to each other by the force of their gravity, but never merging, each maintaining its own orbit, its own light, its own mystery. He will pursue you not because you are playing a game, but because you are the most exciting game. You are the unfinished story that he wants to write with you. You are the priceless prize that it is an honor to possess. You are a living force of nature that cannot be conquered. You are an impregnable fortress that commands respect. You are a magical mirror that offers depth. You are the one whose absence makes the heart ache with longing. You are the one in whom light and darkness have woven a pattern of incredible beauty. You don't become the destination. You become the journey. And from such a journey, no true explorer will ever want to return. He will follow you, guided by your light and intrigued by your shadow, again and again to infinity. Because you have stopped being just a woman. You have become destiny.